that is the Euro 2024 final between Spain and England, 3 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Wow, how lit is Sunday? Woo!
Lit.
It's going to be a fun day of soccer, I'll tell you that much. All right, so let's chat about this final. Tony, how surprised are you that it's these two teams facing off?
Well, I thought initially when the tournament came out, I thought Germany would be in the final for sure. Spain was my next team, so I'm not so surprised by Spain. England showed in the semifinal that they look like a team that can win a final. Where leading up to this, I didn't think that Gareth Southgate's team looked all that good. And I think they got by really because they're just more talented than some of the other teams. But I thought in the semifinal, we talked about it yesterday, right? That was their best performance. And they look worthy of being in the final. If you just watched that game in sort of 90 minutes and said, this is a team that can win. And Gareth Southgate has got a slew of players that he can call on. And even if you think about it, like Jude Bellingham, who we thought was going to be the star of this tournament for England, he's not even been all that good for Gareth Southgate. But they have a chance here against Spain. There's no doubt about it. But this will be a fun one.
I felt the opposite in terms of predictions. I had England since the day one. I just thought, I looked at the roster, I looked at what they had been doing leading into this, and Spain was sort of my question mark because there was so much talk about De La Fuente. He's a youth coach. It's not the same national team. But they have, without a doubt, been the best team for me to watch. I mean, they've kind of brought it back to the simple days. Like, it's not that complicated, a lot of their tactics, right? It's isolate on the wings, get one-on-one, try to dribble your man, be vertical, don't pass for passing's sake. Yet they still have that Spanish flair of when they're in tight spaces, they can make 1-2 passes and go all the way. And they've had the harder path. They had the group of death with Croatia, with Italy, with Albania. Then they had to play Germany. Then they had to play France, right? And they had that difficult path where England were on a very favorable side. But that all leads me to believe that England is... There's a magic in tournaments like this. Yes, yeah. Destiny. You need a little bit of luck running into them, and they've gotten better as the tournament has progressed.
And this is the thing, too, with England, because I think Jude Bellingham has underperformed, you know, outside of that big goal, the bicycle kick goal they had. But in terms of him playing to his potential, I think he's underperformed. So he's underwhelmed, I think, from that standpoint. And Harry Kane has not looked like himself. You see Ollie Watkins come in and scores a goal. At what point, because we all know Harry Kane's going to start in that game, do you move on from Harry Kane in this match? Is it 60 minutes? Is it halftime if Harry Kane isn't going? Is it
Southgate
70,
has not been making subs early.
Right. So, but at the same time, you know the difference of when you have these players coming off the bench who give you something else. And, you know, if you're talking about the English players who have been lackluster, maybe this is the time where you start, hey, if you don't perform in 60 minutes, I'm making the switch.
But it's also, I think there's also a positive spin to that because the guys who have come in, like you mentioned, Ollie Watkins, Cole Palmer, Mainu, who's the starter of the team, they've performed, right? So you're still in a final without having some of those key players be incredible, and you have that option off the bench. The best teams, the ones that create groups and have good tournaments, they get options from off the bench.
Well, that's the thing, I think, when you look at this English side. Bukayo Saka has been a star. Kobe Manu has been a star. But Phil Foden finally came alive in this last match.
Game,
You could see the difference in the attacking third when Phil Foden's on, what he can do when he gets involved and he's moving off the ball and he's creating chances for himself and others. It opens up the whole attacking half for England. So as much as England have been poor, we know it could be a flip of a switch. And next thing you know, Spain give them space. And I think the way the Netherlands played catered almost to that, to England having a little bit more possession and more freedom. But Spain, you talked about the individualism on the wide. They also tuck in. When Lamine Yamal comes inside, Nico Williams can float, stay wide, or vice versa. And then they outnumber teams in the midfield. So that's what you got to be aware of when you watch Spain.
Let's chat on Spain's journey in this tournament because they become the first team in Euros history to win all 6 of their matches so far. At what point in this tournament did we know that the Spain side was for real, Marco?
When they completely dominated Italy in that second match, and it was only 1-0, and they should have scored at least 3-4 goals. That was a moment where I looked at the Spanish side and I said, okay, all the people who were concerned coming in, who had their doubts about the coach, coach, about the players, they were relentless. They didn't just pass for passing's sake. And having watched in the past under Luis Enrique, who I like Luis Enrique a lot, but a different style, different energy within the play. And I said, all right, these guys, they could go all the way. And they have the talent within the squad, but they also have this character and players off the bench. Speaking about England, Danny Olmo has been brilliant since he's coming on.
Yeah, Pedri, we thought was going to be a big loss, but almost come in, and it's been just seamless, right? And we talked to Guillaume Balaguin, we'll talk to him later on, early in this competition. He said, because we asked him, just what you mentioned before, tell us about De La Fuente. We don't really know. We know he won at the youth level. We know he won 2 Euros at the youth level. But he said, this is a team that has that flair, can still get out of tight spaces, but they're a little bit more direct. And when you think of Spain, the word direct doesn't always come to mind, right? Because under Luis Enrique, it was possession just to have possession. Now it looks to me possession with a purpose. Possession to get someplace where we can get forward as quickly as possible. And I think that's what we're seeing from this side. They for me, and I think you guys would agree, have been the team that has not changed anything in their playing style from game 1 all the way through game 6. Like, they've looked the same team, and we were lucky. Italy was lucky. Right, because you mentioned 1-0. That if it wasn't for Donnarumma, that would have been a disaster for the Italians, right? But they've been the most consistent side.
I would say from game 1, when you beat Croatia 3-0, thrash them in that manner, we also thought, oh, yeah, Croatia maybe are not the Croatia of old, but either way, this team is for real. And Lamine Yamal carrying over what he's done in Barcelona to the Spanish side, a 16-year-old kid who's dominating in this fashion, who not only is the young player of the tournament, but probably the player of the tournament.
How surprised are you at that?
I'm really surprised.
Yeah.
Because we all see kids.
We knew he had potential.
He has potential.
Yeah,
Not at this level.
And we always see young players at least, maybe they get into a good, comfortable rhythm with their club, but the transition with the national team, now it's egos. Everyone's playing on their big club teams, that it doesn't necessarily translate. And it's maybe hard to break in and get as much time on the ball. Not with a kid like this. And that's why the comparisons naturally are going to say Barcelona, La Masia, 16, Messi. If you compare Lamine Yamal now, and I know we're talking 10 years, 15 years of consistency, right? But Lamine Yamal now versus Leo Messi at this same age, Lamine Yamal is leaps in front of Messi. Can he continue this? And there are a lot of comparisons here because look how composed he is. He plays like he's 28 years old, not 16. And there's a lot of ifs and buts, right? Throughout the career, can he stay healthy? Can you continue to improve and stay this dominant no matter how many teams have the chance to figure you out? Can you continue to still have an impact? And I just love when you see kids like this, where you see that the joy of the game, the love of the game, how pure it is when he's on the ball. Just a gift to watch. I can't wait to watch this player for years to come.